Yo, what's going on everyone? It's O'Mouse, and welcome to the ultimate guide on how to play Pyramid Head. And in this guide I'll be talking about his base range ability, the range of it, the physics of it, his add-ons, and just some cool strategies that survivors don't usually see coming. The Executioner's range attack is called Rights of Judgment and has a base range of 8 meters long and 1 meter wide, and can injure and or down multiple survivors. Pyramid Head leaves trails anytime he places his sword into the ground while holding M2, and if survivors walk into it, you get Killer Instinct for a short period of time, revealing their location, and they become tormented, which is his own unique status effect. Trails also last for a total of 75 seconds around the map. When downing a tormented survivor, you can send him to a Cage of Atonement, which counts as a hook, but doesn't have the same effects as a hook. And I'll be going over some interesting strategies that PP Head can use to his advantage when it comes to cages. Pyramid Head has 115% movement speed, but when charging Rights of Judgment, he is shortly slowed down to 92%, and then 110% movement speed when Judgment is fully charged. Now let's talk about the physics of his range attack. Rights of Judgment can be used on stairs. His ability to shoot down steps is one of the many things that makes him the powerhouse he is. It can be used on the basement stairs. The stairs on RPD are free hits as well. Make sure you're standing behind the top of the steps. If you're standing on the steps themselves, the shot will not work, but overall it can never go up. You can get some interesting shots with a small amount of elevation, but mostly you never want to aim upwards, only straight or downward. Some other interesting shots survivors don't usually expect are shots on the Harvester on Coldwin. Even the drop down on Gideon, you can hit survivors on majority of drop downs as long as you time it correctly. Your range attack has to be there on the ground while a survivor is landing on the ground. Survivors can jump into your power, and it will still count as a hit or a down. When downing a tormented survivor, instead of hooking them, you can send them to the cage. Cages spawn the furthest away from your current location, and when memorizing cage spawns, you can play strategically to easily pressure survivors and win more of your matches. Majority of his cage spawns are pretty much the same on any map, but some newer maps are a bit different. But the cage will always be the furthest from you. His cages counter hook-related perks such as Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, Off the Record, Deliverance, and etc. Having the cage to utilize, you can also counter common survivor playstyles. If you're against a team that wants to hover for flashlight and pallet saves, getting survivors tormented and ready for the cage deems beamers and any save for that matter completely useless. In other words, he's a swift destroyer. Common cage spawns are at shack or any corner of the map. If you stand too close to a cage for a short amount of time, the cage will teleport to the other side of the map, so you can't face camp cages. But you can proxy them from afar if you know their current location, making it difficult for survivors to get a save. I also would recommend to never cage once all the gens are done. Some more common cage spawns are actually near exit gates as well, which would give a survivor a free escape, unless everyone is dead at that point, of course. There are different types of shots a good pyramid can go for: quick shots, long shots, and prediction shots. I use them all in about 100% of my games. Quick shots are basically what it says in the name, quick shots. Shots that are so fast that survivors usually can't react in time. You can go for a shot as soon as you hear your sword hit the ground. Quick shots are more reliable with double range add-ons, such as Burning Man Painting, his green add-on that adds 1.5 meters to his range attack, and also his yellow add-on, Waxstall, that adds another 1 meter to his attack. He also has a brown range add-on called Blackstrap, which increases his range by 0.5 meters, which doesn't sound like much, but numbers always matter in games. Survivors also never expect these types of attacks, but your more experienced survivors will catch on, so you will have to change it up a bit with some of the other two shots I mentioned, which leaves us with shot type number 2, long shots. I call them long shots, but it's basically zoning survivors. Most survivors will try and juke and dodge while you hold judgment. The longer you hold your power, the more difficult it will be for them to get somewhere safe. And last but not least, we have prediction shots. These are the most uncommon and advanced shots a Pyramid Head can go for, and your typical survivor player wouldn't expect them, to be honest. Prediction shots are easier when you have any perk that reveals a survivor's aura, but you can still go for them even without aura reading perks. I sometimes play Pyramid Head like you'd play Spirit. I use my ears. Survivors make lots of noise when running on the other side of a wall. With certain maps and survivor cosmetics, you can hear their estimated location and go for a prediction shot accordingly. It's something that'll take time, but trust me, when you get it down, there isn't a shot you won't be able to go for. Pyramid Head is a mind game prediction based killer, kind of like Nurse in a way. Survivor's usual counterplay to Pyramid Head's power is usually to run forward or double back, which is where predictions come into play. Reading a survivor's playstyle is essential to going for prediction shots. Sometimes you'll have to aim your power forward or aim it backwards in the opposite direction, forcing survivors to run back into your attack. Depending on your DPI and sensitivity, you can also force survivors to go in the direction you want them to. This shot and strategy is a mixture of a quick shot and a prediction shot. Once your sword hits the ground, you can aim one way, then shoot the opposite direction. Once a survivor hears that sword noise, they will usually fall back to the opposite direction of where you were first aiming. Here is an example. Put the sword into the ground, aim, then move power to the opposite direction and shoot, and you have yourself a clean, quick prediction shot. Not really a prediction when you're controlling survivor pathing, but you get the picture. Now, as we all know, Pyramid Head has some of the worst add-ons in the entire game. I think that is because he is one of the strongest killers base kit wise, and I think Behavior was probably a little nervous about his ability and didn't want his add-ons to be too crazy. But first we'll start with his two types of add-ons that are actually really good, and you probably guessed it. Range and duration. Range add-ons are typical add-ons any good Pyramid Head will use. Being able to increase the range of your attack to a whopping total of 10.5 meters is actually insane. Double range is really good for those quick snipes like I said before. Double range does have its pros and cons. The pros obviously being able to hit from afar. It makes prediction shots easier. It makes it a bit harder for survivors to pre-drop pallets. The cons though are travel time. The more you play Pyramid Head, the more you will notice this travel time. And even though base Pyramid Head has always had it, the range would be longer, so the travel time is even longer with these add-ons. But in real life time, it's not by a lot. But in a game like DBD, time is everything, and survivors usually don't notice the travel time either, but you can sometimes miss shots because of it if you don't time your shots correctly. The further you are from a target, the longer it'll take to hit, so just keep that in mind when running range. Regardless though, range is still really good and are his best add-ons to date. Duration add-ons allow you to hold your power longer for zoning survivors and being more patient with your shots. These add-ons also help increase the amount of trails you leave behind since you'll be holding your sword down longer. So his good add-ons are Burning Man Painting, which increases the range by 1.5 meters, Wax Doll, which increases the range by 1 meter, Black Strap, which increases it by 0.5 meters, Tablet of the Oppressor, which increases the duration of Rites of Judgment by 2 seconds, Spearhead, which also increases the duration of Rites of Judgment by 1.5 seconds, and Copper Ring, which increases the duration of Rites of Judgment by 1 second. He has some other add-ons that leave trails around the map longer, Recharge, making the killer instinct from trails last longer. It all really depends on your playstyle and what you want to go for in your matches. But these are the only ones I'd recommend if you're going for shots primarily. His iridescent add-ons are really bad, unfortunately. Iridescent Seal of Metatron reveals the auras of all tormented survivors in your match when sending a survivor to the cage, and you can only see this aura for 6 seconds. Sounds pretty good when you say it out loud, but good survivors can avoid being tormented, and some games can go so fast you don't even have the chance to torment survivors. Obsidian Goblet is an interesting eerie add-on. It grants you undetectable while standing on a trail. You can do some interesting mind games with this add-on. If you run duration add-ons with it, you can be undetected while trailing, but again, not really good in most situations, so I would not recommend. His purple add-ons are also really bad. Trails can inflict status effects like Hemorrhage, Oblivious, Blindness, and also, again, increase the duration of Killer Instinct, which in my opinion, are not good. I would recommend Behavior make it so that these status effects are inflicted on M2 Impact. Would definitely inspire more Pyramid Head players to go for more shots, and would be really rewarding for M2 heavy Pyramid Heads. Pyramid Head is an A-tier killer and is one of the strongest killers in the game. He can counter some of the most survivor-sided maps that majority of the killer rosters struggle on. He can counter strong areas like main buildings, shack, god palettes. The list goes on. He's an extremely scary killer for survivors to verse, especially in the right hands. But there are a small amount of maps that make Pyramid Head frustrating to play, and it has to do with his animations and how wonky the physics of his power are. The first bad map for Pyramid Head I'm going to discuss is Swamp. As I mentioned earlier, Pyramid Head's power can hit downstairs but can't go up. Swamp has lots of hills and terrain that isn't leveled, so survivors will usually end up running up these hills and chase, which makes your power useless during these moments. Your power will not go up these hills. So as you get better with PP Head in most areas on that map, you're going to find yourself M1ing until they get to a certain area. Pyramid Head needs flat surfaces. His absolute worst map in the entire game without a doubt has to be Larry's. Majority of window vaults consume Pyramid Head's power. The windows on Larry's treat Pyramid Head's power like there's a different amount of elevation on both sides of the windows. So when you go for a shot at a window vault, you'll find yourself not hitting these very free shots that should be hits and downs, and survivors will get away for free. His power continues to be cut off at these windows, and a lot of the time, you find yourself M1ing more than usual. Pyramid Head has been a buggy killer since his release, but is still a really fun and strong killer to play. You just have to really adjust yourself on certain maps, which goes for all killers. Again, Pyramid Head can counter really strong areas. He can counter the main building on Garden of Joy, which is one of the worst maps for killer. He can counter the buildings on Haddonfield because again, his power can go downward, even through houses. No window vault, besides the upstairs ones, are safe on that map against Pyramid Head. He can easily counter Shack. But if the basement is there, he can't really go for shots on the outskirts of Shack. The basement stairs will consume his power, but you can get some cool shots on the side in front of the basement steps. It's just very situational. Bad Ham main building can be countered as well, but these types of prediction shots you would go for at these buildings will obviously take lots of time and practice. Studying survivor pathing and the layout of these locations will help tremendously. The only main building Pyramid Head kinda struggles is Saloon Main. Survivors can go up the stairs if they have a head start, so I usually avoid that main unless they are on the bottom floor. But overall, Pyramid Head is an anti-loop killer who can counter 95% of the loops in the game. That within itself is the main reason why you should take the time to learn him. His first impressions are usually negative because of his animations feeling really slow, but that muscle memory will build over time, and you won't even notice it in the end. On a more positive note, Pyramid Head has lots of great maps, but we'll discuss the ones I think are his best maps. Autohaven and the Macmillan Estate are some of the best killer realms in general. But for Pyramid Head specifically, he can pressure survivors really well on these maps because of cage spawns. Wrecker's Yard being my favorite map for him. Majority of cage spawns are in complete dead zones, and when you memorize these spawns, not only can they be proxied from afar, but if they get the save, the survivors will not have enough time to get somewhere safe. Pyramid Head is a killer designed to tunnel. You obviously don't have to tunnel, but his kit is based off of that playstyle. But even for going for shots, Wrecker's Yard is really good. Ironworks of Misery is a really good map as well. With recent changes, most loops on that map are not safe against this killer. Coal Tower is another one I have lots of fun on for a shot-heavy playstyle, and gen placement is really good for a killer on that map. Pyramid Head can counter that main building pretty well, and these maps are all flat surfaced, which goes really well with his power. Gideon is a really good map for Pyramid Head. He can counter majority of the god palettes on that map, and it's also pretty good for trails. The drop down shot is still one of my favorite shots to hit to this day, but his best map in my opinion, and it's a map all of my followers and subscribers know I hate, funny enough. RPD. RPD has stairs and drop downs that he can shoot downward on, and survivors can't even use the god palette against him on the stairs in the main lobby. Survivors have to pre-W key on that map, and no loop against Pyramid Head on that map is safe. Since RPD is an indoor map, that within itself makes trails way more reliable. Indoor maps are more confined, which means less room for survivors to walk and run. Trailing on maps like RPD and even his home field, Midwich, are great for tormenting survivors. But overall, with the small amount of Pyramid Head mains that do exist, we all have different playstyles and play them differently. You may find other maps more useful for you, so this is just my opinion, but I really do think these are the maps you really want to be on when playing Pyramid Head. As a P100 Pyramid Head myself, I usually change my builds very often, and I like to experiment and find out different builds that suit my chase and shot heavy playstyle. A really good beginner aura reading build would be Nowhere to Hide, a perk that reveals any survivor's aura within a 24-meter radius when you kick a gen. I'm All Ears reveals the aura of any survivor performing a rushed action like vaulting a window within a 48-meter radius, and their aura is revealed for 6 seconds. This perk has a cooldown of 40 seconds, but it's still very good. Gearhead is a great aura reading information perk that allows you to see survivors on gens whenever they complete a good skill check, and they will be revealed for 8 seconds. In order for this perk to activate, a survivor must lose a health state. So if you're playing killer, this perk should work passively, and you can see the aura of any survivor around the map, as long as somebody's doing a good skill check. And last but not least, we have Lethal Pursuer. Reveals all the survivors' auras at the start of each trial for 9 seconds. And a second effect this perk has, and any other aura reading perk gets extended for an extra 2 seconds with Lethal. So Lethal is very good for aura reading builds on Pyramid Head and in general. Now if you need a good PP Head build that can properly slow the game down, I would recommend Corrupt Intervention. Corrupt blocks 3 generators furthest from you at the start of the trial for 120 seconds. Corrupt was changed recently, and Corrupt currently deactivates if you get your first down within that early time frame. Still good for Pyramid Head's late game. Deadlock blocks the gen with the most progress for 30 seconds when a gen gets completed. Again, Lethal is just really good information. Pyramid Head doesn't have any mobility, so knowing where survivors are early on is really good. And last but not least, we have No Way Out. I don't usually recommend hook related perks for PP Head. If you're doing what you need to do most of your games, you won't be hooking that much, but instead utilizing cages. No Way Out blocks exit gates for 12 seconds plus an additional 12 seconds each stack. You get 1 stack per first hook on a survivor. It's a good plan B to have just in case all the gens get done. It's like having an extra gen on the map with that extra amount of time if you have all 4 stacks. Slowdowns that require you to do absolutely nothing are amazing on Pyramid Head, because his kit doesn't have lots of synergy with most hook-related killer perks. One hook-related slowdown I would recommend though if you want to change it up is Pain Resonance. Sometimes you will occasionally hook as Pyramid Head, so it's nice to get some extra slowdown when you actually do use hooks as Pyramid Head. But that's going to conclude this guide on how to play Pyramid Head. I hope this guide has helped you in any way, and feel free to drop any more questions you may have in the comments below. I also stream on Twitch, and since the FOV slider dropped, I've been playing lots more Pyramid Head on stream, so come by and join the conversation. Would love to have you there. Peace and love, everyone.